You are now tuned in to Walk It Off with your hosts, Drew, right here. You can see me. And Dave,
Right
right
there. You're
there.
right there. And
You can see
Dave,
him.
I don't think we're ever going to get over the novelty. Every one of these shows is going to be like, can you believe you can see us? We are
We've
actually
been
here in
doing
person.
radio for so long.
It's unfathomable still. So much so that I forgot how ridiculous it would look to wear a hat that I would normally wear into the radio studio where nobody can see me onto the airwaves for my Nashville radio show. And I got to be honest, Drew, I'm a little embarrassed, even though I really love this hat.
One of us came correct.
I know. I know. Well, gosh, when you win, you earn the respect, right? And so, see, I can't even trash talk our Memphis Grizzlies in real life. Much I can't even pretend. So,
So I guess we don't have to ask where your loyalties were at the game last night.
it's an interesting topic. I got some razzing from my brother, who I went to the game with, for like, hey, should we be sitting on the other side of the arena? Things like that, because I kept talking up just how great this Grizz team is in terms of potential and fun to watch. And I mean, they're not a bad team. We've talked about that. Are they at the level of greatness right now? I don't think we could say that. They're a great team to have in Tennessee right now. And Ja Morant is one of my favorite players in the NBA. Frankly, as much as I love Devin Booker, which I really do love Devin Booker, but a lot of that's because he's in Phoenix. He's on my hometown, always will be number one team. And he's been a good role model, a good fan favorite, a good leader for that team. But if I weren't there and if I was just in a vacuum, I honestly think I would be a Ja Morant fan over a Devin Booker fan. I love his game. I love watching him more. Not by a large margin, because Devin is really exciting. But Ja's just so fun. And I also love a really graceful and productive big guy. Like number 5 in Jonas Valanciunas, who is just this whole year become one of my favorite kind of breakout players to watch. And so I was pretty much singing those praises the entire time. But with that said, I will admit it. I'm not afraid to admit it. I think we all have our gray areas, our contradictions, our weirdness when it comes to sports loyalty, and we have to choose. You always have to have a ultimate team, unless you're one of those weirdos who I will, on record, always say is a weirdo, and I don't respect or appreciate or condone your opinion. If you're a fan or a player follower, right? I'm a little hyperbolic there, but like I can't wrap my head around that. I like wherever LeBron is, that's my favorite team. That doesn't make sense to me. So
Unless you know him personally.
that's totally fair. That really really is fair. Like, a player has to deal with that, right? If you grow up in one area as a big fan, then you're drafted by another team. You got to go that way, and so does your family, etc. So you're right. That is a definite way to do it, but that's a small group of people for sure.
Now, I'm with you there, man. Again, both of us, we moved to Tennessee as adults. You left again, but I've been in Tennessee now almost 15 years. Plenty of time to get more than attached to our local teams.
Absolutely.
And feel totally good about that.
Yeah.
But again, I'll tell anybody. I'll root for the Preds. I'll root for the Grizz. 100% legit. Throwing my fan vested interest behind them, unless they're playing my childhood teams, the teams I grew up with, my Mets or Islanders.
Yeah. It's what you have to do. And what I've found, and this is one of the reasons that I struggle with the Super Bowl sometimes each year, is if you don't have a cat in the fight, I don't know, whatever the right term is. There's probably so many weird Southern phrases that I'm forgetting now too. But
You haven't skinned some cats in a bag that are fighting?
yeah, which I do. And one of them's wearing a Suns hat, and one of them wearing a Grizz hat. If you don't have it's just not as fun. You need to be rooted. And all right, I can't ascribe this to other people. I need to be rooting for somebody. I need to say,
That's where gambling comes in, buddy.
you're,
Spice up any game and get a serious rooting interest in it.
oh, that's such a great point. I mean, fantasy football too. That's that's given me that opportunity to really care about NFL games. I wasn't a camp out on Sunday night kind of guy or Sunday kind of guy. I would follow the NFL, I'd watch my team, and that's it. But now I have interest certainly in red zone, and seeing all of those things. So, great point.
Look, we've talked about this before, but I mean, going back to childhood, I've thrown a Super Bowl party every year up until this current year. Disaster. But when people show up, I demand that they bring money to put down on a Super Bowl box. I don't care if you're there for the commercials. I don't care if you're just there for the food. That's great. Come by, have a good time. We'll have a blast. But put some money in, buy yourself a box, and all of a sudden you find yourself really caring about what goes on in the game.
Yeah, rooting for a safety. Who roots for a safety? But
it just makes it so much more fun when you've got some little vested interest.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah, I really enjoyed. I can't recall if we talked about this on the show because we were off around Super Bowl, but I enjoyed the prop bets we did too. Like finding some other random things to put some money on to give you some attention throughout the game too.
And having to hunt down the color of Gatorade because the broadcast cut away early, and that was the tiebreaker.
I know. Oh my gosh, that was painful. And like I don't know if that's ever happened. Like I feel like I see the Gatorade every time, but not this time.
Fun.
It did.
It was a big deal. There were articles about when they cut away, and all the prop bettors were like, "The hell color was the Gatorade?"
It took some legit online sleuthing to figure that out. So thank you to the online investigative world for tracking that down and solving it for all us prop bettors.
One of these days, I'm going to do some real research into that. I want to know how the Gatorade color gets picked. Is it randomly assigned at each game? Does Gatorade pick, or the sideline, the equipment manager is just like, I got a whole bunch of fruit punch here. We're doing that today.
That's a great point.
Or is it a preference? Do they take a poll of the players? You got 50% for grape, 30% for blue, whatever flavor blue is, 10% fruit punch, 10% orange.
It's ice flavored. Oh man, this is such a great road to go down that we did not plan today.
A guy who plays seniority, I'd love that. A team captain just pulls seniority. Like, hey, look, I know you guys are into all those weird flavors and everything, but I'm all about fierce grape.
Yeah, and are there such things as like the Arnold Palmers of Gatorade or a suicide, of all the different flavors? I mean, who's to say they can't do these things? And this opens
That's
up.
That's definitely a push on the prop bet.
There's no doubt about that. Well, unless we identify odds, and this is the big question. First off, can we? Well, actually, first off, how is it decided? Second, can we? And then it inevitably opens up the third question, which is kind of scary to think of all the money that rides, especially in Vegas, on prop bets. That's not governed information. Like if you know that the water boy is making that decision, and that's your BFF, you got an inside track, dude. And that's I don't know, that just rang with me that's kind of scary that you could sway it that way.
Like the rumor that we heard this year when there was the streaker on the field at the Super Bowl, that he had placed a huge bet on there being a streaker on the field at the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
That was totally worth the jail time.
Yeah, that's right. He made money on that. That's insane.
But
that's it.
Further and further. So yeah, that's what we were talking about this week, right? It was Super Bowl prop bets.
That was number one on the agenda, I think.
Oh man, it's always good getting in here and talking to you, buddy. Especially looser, when we're not on air, when we don't have specific things to talk about. We just get into that sports bar banter.
Absolutely.
We got our beers. We got what we're talking about. We're recording Tuesday night, so tomorrow's St. Patrick's Day. So get my Guinness right here, and I will be speaking the rest of the show in a terrible, terrible brogue.
I'm drinking me wine. It's Tuesday night. That's a classy night in my household, Drew.
Obviously.
Other big question on that topic: are you making your Irish soda bread? And 1B, are you mailing it to Phoenix?
1A, absolutely. Famous family recipe from my Irish uncle.
I miss it, man.
Real deal soda bread.
That
Not
is
the stuff you get in stores.
That is delicious bread. I mean, it's funny how frankly, I don't think about it much during the year. And then all of a sudden, somebody's like, "Oh, it's almost St. Patrick's Day," and then I get this like mouth watering for like, "Oh my god, I want your soda bread so bad."
Be doing corned beef and cabbage, whole 9 yards. Have some fun, even if we're not going out like usual this year. We can still have fun with it.
I love it. I love it. That's the way to do it, man.
And I'm not a baker. This is one time a year. The Irish soda bread recipe. Got to do it. I'm a griller myself, as far as food preferences. I know you're an excellent chef. We've had some of your recipes featured on our social media every now and then.
I've kind of cooled on it since coming out here, and I need to get back in. I haven't. I used to love even grilling vegetables was something I got into for a while. I eat mostly vegetarian now. So fish, which you have been lovely enough to grill for me on your big green egg, or one of my favorites. Like I miss it. I think it was Super Bowl, man. It's just one of my favorite memories hanging out with you is when you were making a mimic of the Italian burger at the burger joint that I'm blanking on now.
Gabby's Burgers.
At Gabby's, thank you.
Favorite right here in Nashville.
Yeah, the one that's a mix of Italian sausage and hamburger meat, right, or something like that.
February special.
Yeah.
Yep. Tried to do it at home. It's good, but it's not as good.
Yeah. Yeah. I know we're bouncing all over, man, but on that topic, first off, I miss Gabby's very much, but we haven't really talked about Rotiers and where you stand on that one, but it was really sad when I heard that closed down because that was one of my original favorite burgers in Nashville was that French bread burger that happened there. And what a cool atmosphere and a great spot, especially when you go down on Elliston Place and you weren't far from that. It's sad to see a place like that close.
If we did their burger rankings, Rotiers was my number 2 in town.
Understandable. I would have been quite there with you. They're unique places like Gabby's and Rotiers because all the burger places that moved in, although they have decent burgers, are these craft burger places. And I'll never knock any place like that because it starts getting into like the craft beer realm and things like that. And there's art behind it and there's people trying to do cool stuff sometimes, but there's just something about you just switch the bread out, man, and make it really good. I don't know.
Might want to be paying attention next month. We hear a rumor that another burger place that we may or may not have mentioned already will be doing a tribute to Rotiers Burgers.
That's
some secret insider info there for everyone listening in here.
That's wonderful. And I wonder if you'll...
That I might not be able to share. So, hey, we didn't say anything.
It's speculative. And I will say there has been another tribute that I've seen out there. The chef from Taste, formerly Taste, who opened Slowco down on 12th Avenue. That turned into Mill Creek Brewing. And then
Oh, wait, you're talking the bracket, aren't you?
Did he do a bracket? No, I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
Is there a burger bracket? Is that what you're talking about?
No, he did a bracket of man, now I'm losing my train of thought for interrupting yours. It's karma. Karma.
Take that. You just make me feel better about my brain.
Of closed down Nashville restaurants that people miss.
I think that was it. Yeah, and it's Jeremy Barlow is his name now that I'm remembering it, and he's doing insert chef here kind of roundabout there. Where he's cooking stuff, and then other chefs can come in for pop-ups in the former Slowco space.
Voting's going to be open for a little while, and then the final 8
love it
are supposedly getting pop-ups of some of their signature recipes, or at least his take on their signature recipes. So
that is super cool, and what a great way to keep the culinary tradition in Nashville alive. That's what Rotiers closing really symbolizes, unfortunately, is that even though there's great culinary things that have moved in, and we've certainly dug real deep into that like Nashville, like Southern cooking roots, that it's kind of created its own vibe there, in its own type of food outside of the staple hot chicken. There's something beyond that has existed in Nashville, well beyond there, that is kind of disappearing, and so it's good to see somebody keeping some of that alive.
And it's fun to have the conversations. I've already talked to a few Nashville locals or people who've been here longer than I have even that are just really getting into this, seeing some of the names and maybe even not recognizing a few of the names. I know
Yeah,
I've been to less than half of the places on there, I think, but
that's
definitely
right.
a good chunk of the bracket.
I did see that bracket now. That's right. And like Sunset Grill was on there. I think that was a number one seed. Now that I'm remembering,
Well, the seeds
got
were
a
drawn
buy.
random,
Were
so
they okay? Well, you say it random, but Taste got a number one seed too and a buy. So
that's true. But so did Hog Heaven, which is another one I miss.
fair enough. Yeah. Oh, that's a fun one to peruse. Yeah, I think I recognized maybe a third to half, maybe even crested that of the names on there. There were definitely some I wasn't familiar with.
Yeah, and then it was sad seeing ones that, we not only went to, but went to a lot. Like your Gold Rush or your
Gold
South
Rush,
Street.
yeah, yeah. Get some bean rolls. Is that what they were at Gold Rush?
Yeah, and more importantly, gets shots between sets of bands that at the end or exit in.
That was that was such a cool space there, man. I was going through old photos from when you and I used to be down there a lot more too, seeing some pictures from outside of the end, and yeah, that whole area. I'm glad that those venues have stayed alive thus far.
And
Uh,
you used to run a
so
music blog that would take photos at shows at those venues.
that's true for the E True Hollywood story of Walk It Off. That's how Drew, you and I met. Man, was doing the music stuff while you were doing Loud Love on WRVU, and we were doing Cinezine and getting the music scene together. And one of the great things that we've talked about lately on our show, but not as much as we probably could and should, honestly, is the connection between sports and music and how those things have really intertwined for a lot of individuals and a lot of cultural phenomena and a lot of history. And certainly we're living examples of that.
That's funny too. I guess while we're here, this is basically behind the scenes backstage talk. So, yeah, that was originally supposed to be a much bigger part of Walk It Off episodes. Was we have curated all these sports songs and music by athletes and a whole lot of things that were going to basically be partial part of shows. And the halftime show sort of evolved from what was going to be just sports related songs to what it is now, which is kind of a goofy thing that catches on to one of the points that we're talking about,
Yeah,
reinforces that. And I feel like that's been something really fun that developed completely organically over the years of doing this radio show.
true.
Is that, yeah, the halftime song became something that people will wait for. Be like, okay, what's it going to be this week? And it's been fun for us coming up with songs that match a theme, however loosely,
However loosely, yeah.
or
Yeah.
just if I'm selected and you don't know what it's going to be in advance, I'm like, I hope Dave's laughing right now as you hear those first couple notes go in.
It's
I
one of
know
my
he wasn't
favorite
expecting
parts.
Lady Gaga this week.
It's one of my favorite parts, and I miss collaborating on it more with you because we used to do that a lot more when we could get together in person before the shows, and then I bailed, moved out to Phoenix. But it has been fun the getting caught off guard by the song that you picked. You picked some real gems. It's a great part of our show. And I'm glad we've held on to it because it's so easy for us to not do a halftime show and just talk for that entire hour. We cover
Yeah,
that so quickly.
we don't need to kill the time.
No,
Trust
we
us.
definitely don't.
But we
definitely
do
don't.
need a break.
Yeah.
That's sometimes nice. Again, behind the scenes, let us get a drink of water or something because, you're doing a talk show. The mics are on the whole time.
That's true.
And especially with COVID, there's no one else in that studio. So got to handle everything back there. The soundboard, the checks. We're our own producers. We're our own show writers.
Yep.
And we don't know where the show's going to go when we come in every week. And we obviously don't know where it's going to go when we get together like this, because this was supposed to be our NCAA bracket talk.
And we always uncover gems. It's what we do, and that's what's fun about the Sports Bar banner. I won't go down there again because that's what our last show turned into. But I mean, that's why we put this together, was so that we can go talk about whatever the heck we want, man.
But hey, we glossed over it. I really did want to get into this while we got you here. You went to the Suns-Grizzlies game last night in Phoenix, which didn't end up going so well for the Grizz, but it was a fun, competitive game. And I got to ask you, me personally, and hopefully our listeners out there, I haven't been to an NBA game since the restart, since they started letting some fans back in the stadiums. I'd love to know what that experience was like. How weird was it?
Uh, it's a great question. It was simultaneously weird and not. I don't know how else to describe it better. It wasn't like any surreal thing. So I wouldn't expect to go in and be like, what is this new world we're in? I mean, obviously it's weird to be in there with less people. But frankly, outside of sitting in your seat and like noticing how light it is out there, which also frankly is kind of like going to a general baseball game during the week. You know what I mean? So it's not like something we haven't experienced. So that's a little weird, but I loved walking around the concourse and not having to deal with a ton of people, frankly. I mean, that's just my personality. And also maybe probably a lot of people's new found aversion to being near people. So I know, like, we've been to shows a lot where it's fun to be cramped in and tight with people. I don't mind that, especially when I'm part of the home team and like you're around all your fans and, like you said, high-fiving people, and it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's part of the thing.
It is, but there was definitely a comfort, what I mean, and just easier to navigate. So that's a positive that rang with me. They did a great job, I thought, of manufacturing sound and making it feel like things were really happening there. Now,
Okay, that's good. That's an important thing I'd want to really ask, because it seemed like in the bubble in the playoffs last season, there was fantastic job with that stuff.
Yeah,
Making the broadcast for TV. But during the regular season, they don't have nearly as many bells and whistles. And honestly, the TV broadcast is a little worse for it. Yeah, I was very curious to see how the in-arena entertainment or atmosphere stayed around.
well, a caveat to that is the last many NBA games that I've gone to have been Phoenix Suns games. And so those weren't the most raucous experiences prior to this year, just to be honest. So, like, they were, I remember when I came back to Phoenix going to some of these games and being like, this is pitiful. Because this was the team with the worst winning percentage over the last decade. We're low bottom four. And there just wasn't a great enthusiasm. So their bar wasn't set very high recently. I just have to be honest about that. But you could feel fans' energy. You could, and it didn't feel like there was a gap in the sound. But I guarantee you, even though I didn't feel it, something was missing. If that would have been a really close game, and we were, yelling for defense and cheering for every stop, it probably would have felt a lot different. Another thing that kept us afloat, just specifically in my situation, was we had a lot of space around us, which is really good. They didn't let the seats go down, which was kind of weird, which I appreciate, because our first inclination, I was there with a group of four, my brother, sister-in-law, my girlfriend. And our inclination was like, well, there's nobody around us. We can move one seat down, because that's what you do. And those seats don't even sit down. They don't even go down, so you can't do that. But 2 rows behind us, there's nobody else around. There was a group, a family with a couple of young kids, and they were just so energized. I mean, defense, screaming for everything, going wild, having a great time. And so that makes up for a lot of it, frankly, because you feel like your own little pod, like everybody's doing it right there and having a good time. So if it would have been a blowout game in reverse, or I didn't have that there, I might have felt that difference a little bit more.
Yeah, that's good to know. The first game that I went to since COVID was Nashville SC, when they reopened that here at Nissan Stadium. And yeah, it was that same thing. It was so bizarre entering the stadium to me.
Yeah, that was
no
different.
Security line, no line in the concessions, just nobody gathered on the concourse. And then you go to your seat, and you sit in your assigned seat, and the others were all zip-tied closed, so you couldn't sit in the other seats. And you had someone come through occasionally, just wiping down all the handrails and kind of keeping an eye on. I don't think they have any enforcement power, but trying to make sure people were wearing their masks when they weren't eating or drinking.
Yeah,
it was a weird vibe, but you could hear the players on the field. That was the big thing too.
Yeah, that's something I was actually looking forward to. I remember you mentioning that, and I was looking forward to maybe being able to pick that up. I was in one of
Not
my
an NBA game. You got some squeaky shoes.
yeah, too many squeaky shoes, and we weren't that close either. It is my favorite spot on if you're looking for like affordable tickets. That I love being second tier front row. Like that's
Absolutely.
golden to me. So we
Totally agree.
we found some great spots right there, but far enough away to where we didn't really have the chance. And it was still really loud in the arena, just with the audio and, like you said, squeaky floors and whatever else. So that really didn't happen. But the concourse was weird. I'm glad you mentioned that. It was. First off, there's just, I mean, we know it. There's a lot of people who are rogue. I mean, 6 feet apart didn't really exist there. They weren't really enforcing that. But it was weird coming in. It was not empty like your experience. They actually had everybody like huddled outside in their little groups. Not like in assigned spots, but everybody was huddled in their groups because they had to get on the app first and do a fan commitment form, which was essentially saying, you know, reading all the rules, acknowledging that you have, and saying that you're going to live by that while you're in this game, which it has, like you said, no weight, but it's a good acknowledgement. So it was really weird. You walk up before you even get in the arena and everybody's potted out there and you got to go through that. And then you go in, and then it was pretty easy after that. And with the exception of probably my biggest gripe was we were on the second concourse, and they only had 2 concessions open, understandable, right? And to limit that, but all they had was a hot dog and or popcorn or nachos, and the nachos are pitiful. And
You're at a professional level game. That doesn't fly anymore.
There isn't, and at least and no regional stuff. Now on the first floor concourse, they had a few more, so we had to trek down there to do that. But
no Sonora dogs.
There was, they have a Suns dog there, and I don't remember what that, but I think there was a Sonoran dog down on the first floor too. So it opened up a little bit there, but it was still like that was a major limitation. Also, was just the availability of those things. Which, sorry to keep going on all these things, but I think one of the more important things about this game too is they just remodeled this arena. They just redid the whole thing. Robert Sarver held that over Phoenix Suns fans' heads and made the illusion they were going to move until the motion was passed. And, of course, now he's got a bunch of money to do that, which goes back to our conversations on owners being horrible, even if they have the best winning percentage since the restart. They have this brand new beautiful bar in there, and it's all redone, and they have a great little bar that goes all the way up to the edge, the concourse does, so you can go watch the game, kind of like what we've experienced in right field at the bandbox at former First Tennessee, the Sound Stadium.
First Horizon currently.
First Horizon, thank you. So
we'll be good to our sponsors locally.
Absolutely. That was kind of a deflation too, because I was really excited about that, and it wasn't as cool as it could have been. But the game was fun. But
great. Overall, the game experience was still there. You know, you're happy you're going instead of sitting there like I could get the same thing from my couch.
There's no doubt about it. Now, you got to compare sports too, right? Like football. I don't know if football would have been that way. Football is so optimized now for watching from your couch. Basketball is great.
Still a hell of a lot of fun to go live.
It's true, but it's so spaced out too. I mean, obviously, baseball or basketball and hockey are more intimate, so I'm speculating that they may be a little bit more ideal for that. But your summary is right, man. It was worthwhile. It was really good. It was a lot of fun to watch those 2 competitive teams. And I'm going to go to another game on Thursday. So I'm going to go.
So you felt safe too.
I did.
Absolutely. The plan's working.
Yes.
At least where they're doing it. Maybe not Texas.
Yeah, maybe not Texas. But still. And it was great to see our Memphis Grizzlies, man. Really, really great to see them live. Really lucky that I was able to make it to a game here to see them because they're so much fun.
I know. I was sending you texts while you were at the game. I was like, man, did you just see that John Morant dunk? It's Air Morant, and you're there in person right now seeing it.
Well, check out our Instagram because I've got a great shot of Ja Morant dunking. And by that I mean it's
Yes.
horrible. But I was able to like actually get it from my horrible seats. He was on the opposite end of the court, but
Which is so damn satisfying,
It
though,
is.
when you can catch a cool moment
It is.
while you're there live at the game. So yeah, that's a picture that's not from a wire service or anything. Real live, taken by non-photographers.
clearly.
So at Walk It Off Radio on your Instagram, on your Twitter, if you're not following yet, do us a solid and get caught up on all the free agency news. That's obviously our big thing this week. That's going to be our big story on Sunday. Unless anything else crazy happens.
You never know.
It's always open. But yeah, when we're back on the WXNA airwaves on Sunday, we'll be talking about the Titans remaking their defense pretty much, and a couple of real surprise moves that happened today. But it's been fascinating. And yeah, we've been there on Twitter and on Instagram at Walk It Off Radio, keeping you up on that. And we'll have so much more to say and break it down on Sunday because, look, we're already a half hour into this today, and we could probably do our full hour easily on just the free agent moves
No doubt.
that we've seen in the first 2 days of free agency now. And we'll have more. We'll know a lot more. There's still a lot of talent out there. The top of the wide receiver market hasn't really moved yet, although the Patriots signed just about everybody, it seemed like.
Boy, have they been. I mean, clearly they're taking it. They're taking the headline here. But like you said, a lot can change over the next couple of days. That's just 2 days of free agency, and clearly the Pats wanted to get going, but there's some other idle people and some other opportunities, idle teams and other opportunities that I think will change the landscape by the time we talk again on Sunday.
And the Titans have some holes they didn't have going into free agency. So it's going to be real interesting to see where it goes from here. As of now, I've got to say, I kind of like where it's going. I see the process at least. There's some surprises, some things you don't like, but you see where it's going as far as continuing and possibly, hopefully, raising an already playoff caliber team. So,
Yeah. Yep. Like you say, you can buy into the vision, and it does what is ultimately the most important thing for this week, but not the most important thing in the long run, is giving us hope and excitement about what's to come. And I don't think those dreams have been dashed. I think that you can find a reason, and a very legitimate one, to feel good about this team going into next season so far.
And again, the offseason itself, the draft, and even this week's free agent frenzy for the opening of free agency is not even close to over yet. It won't even be official. There won't be any official signings until tomorrow. This is just the appetizer buffet, but it's been pretty wild so far. And again, on Friday, we got the start of March Madness, the tournament. Not the Nashville restaurants that don't exist anymore tournament.
Which
Not the whatever else we were talking about earlier in the show as a bracket.
almost as exciting.
But yeah, man, it's a lot of fun. You fill out your brackets yet? You feel pretty good about it?
I mean, kind of. So I'll be honest with you. I filled it out today, with the exception of the play-in games. And then, here's David turning
Take a
in.
stand. Pick the play-in games already.
Well, I'm just gonna go all in on me looking like an old person who doesn't understand technology, which I'm not normally like that. I was filling out the bracket. I was on ESPN. I couldn't figure out where the play-in games were on there, so I just had gaps in my bracket. I was like, well, I'll just leave it here until the games are over, and then I can fill them in, I imagine. So a lot of ignorance there, a lot of amateurish type of speculation. And then
Man, you can't tell them that. We're the experts.
We're professional sports. We're the experts on how the games are played, man. But I'll tell you what, the reason that I always focus on professional sports is because my brain can't compute the volume of players and the variables in college sports, especially college basketball. It is one of my favorite sports to watch. March Madness, as we've said, is arguably the best playoff and the best part of sports all year. I mean, that's debatable, but it's very, very close to being up there. And so I'll never argue with that. But the apps, I have to do all my studying game by game going through as to what we're doing, because it's not in my brain. And so I did some of that today. And then I had to restart.
Our pro sports talk show.
That's
disclaimer.
That's the disclaimer. Hold
But
me to a
then
lower
again, come
standard,
on.
please.
It's us. I'm gonna win most of my workplace office brackets.
That's true. That's true. That's true. Definitely have a leg up, no matter what we say. We do. We know a little bit more than we ever lead on.
Yeah, man. The weird things I see about this one is just looking over this bracket real quick. Like, there's two whole quadrants that it's real hard to pick anything but chalk on.
There's no
I
doubt
love
about
my
that.
upsets as much as everybody, but there's only a few. Again, this is such a bizarre year, and as always, anything can happen. There's always a team that surprises and crashes and becomes a new Cinderella. We've got a couple of the former Cinderellas in it again right now. Loyola Marymount's an 8 seed now. They're legit. They made it. Sister Jean's going to be in the bubble. We saw that. That's exciting. You going to bet against that?
Those are some of the questions. Like you said, defending champions at Virginia as a, oh my gosh, were they a number 4 seed? Why did I just lose them?
Yeah, they're number 4.
They're a number 4 seed. Yeah, I was looking at the wrong part of the bracket. So, and then even if you're looking into the Midwest, Illinois is taking number 1, but Houston's nothing to sneeze at, man. And so I know 2 is chalk all the way through until the Final Four, but they have a legitimate chance of coming out there too, as does San Diego State coming out. I mean, even upsetting West Virginia coming through. I think on my bracket, I've got them making it beyond that round.
I could see one of the teams in the play-in game making a run for basically the first time since we've had the play-in games. The winner of that UCLA Michigan State play-in game, 2 blue blood programs that were kind of hard times this year. Whichever one of them wins that game has BYU, which isn't super intimidating in the first round as a 6 seed. And then they'll go against I definitely think is the weakest of the 3 seeds in Texas if they advance to that spot. So there's already a fairly good path to the Sweet 16 for an 11 seed that had to play a play-in game. And of course, that will probably mean they'll get wiped out by BYU in the first round, since I said it. But that's one of the interesting things I'm looking at. I'm looking at Syracuse as an 11 seed. Again, some of these real blue blood programs that both know what it takes and have what it takes to make a little bit of a run in the tournament after down seasons ranked that low. It could be real interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that extends to the coaching too. Like you were talking about the coach in Michigan. One of the Fab Five, whose name I'm blanking on.
Juwan Howard.
Juwan Howard. Thank you very much, making his mark out there, and they're
absolutely.
That kind of blue blood, I think, brings a whole new level here. I mean, Patrick Ewing in Georgetown. Georgetown, I think, as a 12 seed, it can be really scary right there. They put some really good things together this year, and
as hot as they are right now, it's hard to pick against them. As good as Colorado was this year,
that you never know.
You win the Big East tournament. Georgetown's to be reckoned with.
There's no doubt, and that's the kind of thing that I always go with experience with the coach. There's certainly some value in the culture of the institution, but I think honestly that has less value than it does in like the NFL, right? Because you build that and you build players up through that for a long time. It's really the coach that is the torchbearer there and the indicator, because one of these teams could totally disappear if they get another coach in there. Now, it's their coaching culture that allows that to keep going, where they can find somebody off the coaching bench to bring up, or find the right person to bring back in who was part of the culture or played or whatever it is. But it's not the actual name or the institution that carries that weight. It's the coach that has done it, and whoever may be carrying that torch after that and doing it well. But that's what I think. Where I think some of these former blue bloods, like Juwan Howard and like Patrick Ewing, have the opportunity to do that for these teams that really aren't aren't those top tier. Well, I guess Michigan is right now, but major top tier programs as much as they were of yore.
Does that mean you're picking Iona and Rick Pitino over Alabama?
Uh, I couldn't. But there's an argument to be made there. When you go in and you turn them around, just like you did. Um, oh man, the guy who coached in Louisville before, then went to Western Kentucky. I'm blanking on his name too, but he was kind of a disgraced coach that had a really good track record. Everywhere he goes, he would go down a level.
That's every college coach.
I know. There's so many of them. But Bobby Petrino, I think, was that his name? He would he'd go down a level, and then he'd raise that team right back up, and then do something dumb and go down a level and raise that team right back up. And those coaches really have the opportunity to do that. So, no, I'm not picking Iona over Alabama, but it crossed my mind.
And we're talking about this in a year that Coach K and Duke, John Calipari and Kentucky aren't even in the tournament.
Yep. Yeah, that
still seems weird to say it, but
it is.
Michigan State again is in the play-in game. They might not even make the round of 64 with that tough game against UCLA before the actual start of the tournament.
Yeah, it's nice to see Tennessee in there though, and if we have any local team that we usually get a chance to root for in here, at least frequently over the last few years, it's been Tennessee, and I think
no Vandy this year.
No Vandy this year. No, no MTSU. We've seen them in the last a few years back. I think a couple of times in there. Get a stab at it.
One of the biggest upsets of the tournament when they beat Duke as a number 15 seed.
That's right.
Just a couple of years back.
We definitely Belmont. We definitely have put together some underdogs here, but even Lipscomb made it in a while back, as far as I recall. But Tennessee's got a real chance here, man. I mean, over Oregon State, and then potentially over Oklahoma State. I think honestly, as much as you were talking about how good Oklahoma State's been last week or on Sunday, Liberty is a team that has, I haven't watched them play, but they have been dominating their opponents. They've been putting up money. They've been putting up points. This is a team that I really think has a chance to upset that number 4, which would still give Tennessee a run for their money. But, I mean, that puts Tennessee in the Sweet 16.
Tennessee, of course, dealing with the loss of their center right now, though, to that dirty elbow in the SEC tournament. So I'm not sure if we have a timeline yet, if we know if he'll be back anytime soon. Hopefully as soon as possible. But I think we're looking at missing at least the first game or two of the tournament. So, yeah, that top-ranked defense of Tennessee, that's been their calling card all season long, and they're going to have to get through with that. But they're a team that could be real tough.
They really could.
Oklahoma State and Liberty are both explosive offense type of teams. So if you get a lockdown defense like UT has been this year, you can change the game on them.
That's always a fun matchup, too. And that's what you look forward to in this is, again, you have a dog in the fight because – that's the analogy. You have a dog in the fight, not a cat in the bag.
And it's not the size of that dog.
No, it is not. It's the bark in the bite. But you do have a dog in the fight if you filled out a bracket, which is why it's so critical to fill out a bracket. But the loyalty isn't there, so you crave those kinds of matchups. Like, I love it when those kind of teams meet in the second round. The round of 32, when you get two, just the perfect matchup. Either it's a good rivalry, a good rematch, or just a good on paper battle. I mean, that's what the first couple days are made for.
Do you have an NCAA basketball team that you root for? I don't know if we've ever talked about that. Again, we're pro sports guys for the most part. But are you ASU, Arizona? I know where you went, which was Naughty America University. Their basketball team.
I appreciate you buying your exactly subscription to pay for my tuition. I do.
Basketball's not their primary focus.
No, although when I went there and I was working for the newspaper, they did make it to They did win the Big Sky Conference regular season, which was a rarity, and had the opportunity to host the Big Sky tournament, and that was a blast. I didn't wind up winning it, of course. At that time, Montana kept running away with it, and so I always choose a Big Sky representative if they're in there because I think it's fun, and I like seeing Montana State, others, whoever's in that conference now, fight for it. But you raise a good point. U of A was always a fun team. I always loved them. I loved Lute Olson. Knew a lot of people that went down there, a lot of people that hung around him. I was lucky enough to play against Channing Frye in high school. He was coached by my varsity basketball coach's dad at one of the elite high schools here. So there's like a lot more connection there. It's probably U of A by a hair, but I usually one of them has a leg up and more of an opportunity, and I'll root for the one that does.
Yeah, we'll see if U of A gets the death penalty on their program.
Oof.
It's been talked about lately. And yeah, it's the same way for me. My alma mater, both universities I went to, they'll occasionally sneak into the tournament as a 15 or 16 seed. But I don't really hold much loyalty towards those basketball programs. I was a baseball guy playing then, and they weren't the most exciting things. They didn't really have that much sway on campus. I don't hold that loyalty to them. That's where I paid a whole lot of money to get a piece of paper. Mm-hmm. It's not my team rooting for. I was always a Big East fan. That was the conference, again, the same way you talked about. So you can see the way people do SEC here.
Yeah.
Big East basketball was definitely a thing that mattered. The tournament at Madison Square Garden every single year. For
sure.
And the team I've rooted for all the time was St. John's, a university that I didn't attend, but I did know people who did and was nearby where I grew up.
It's Chris Mullen there right now, right?
He's been gone a few years now.
Has he been gone a few years now? Man.
Yep. But he was. He's the legend who used to play there.
That's right.
And the Johnnies were real competitive. They were up on the bubble in what was supposed to be a rebuilding season. So, fun team to watch. I've always just liked Big East basketball. Something about the teams that concentrate on that and don't have football to really carry their programs.
That is fun to see. That's a great point.
Nice.
And
so it was good to see the Big East return after its breakup.
Yeah. I like seeing that too.
St. John's to get into the national eye a little bit again.
I like that. Well, you just gave me a reason to root for them a little bit more too. I don't even know where exactly they are, but I've got a weird allegiance to St. Bonaventure too, because I know they're in New York, right? But I'm pretty sure they are, or at least they're northeast.
They're northeast somewhere. I'm not even sure where St. Bonaventure is.
But I remember being
get some angry emails from Bonnie's fans.
I know. Allegheny, New York. So they I was at Riverfront Tavern, if you remember Riverfront, right on First and just north of Broadway. I'm blanking on the street, but Church, I guess, right? And very close to the river there. Used to go there all the time.
Imagine that.
I know. Very aptly named. So it's like the river's here, and it's like near it.
Some might say in front of it.
Some might. But it was a great bar I used to go to when I first moved to Nashville. One of the places I reminisced about a lot because it was not directly in the path, but right around the corner of where that bomb exploded and where I spent most of my time in that area. I certainly had gone up and down Second a ton, but that was a camp for me. But I remember taking a day off to watch the first round and sitting next to a couple women from St. Bonaventure who were in town, and they were big fans. Just took the day off to root for the Bonnies, and so ever since they were just awesome people. So ever since then, I'm like, St. Bonaventure, never heard of you, but I'm rooting for you.
Exactly, man. Why we love sports, like you were talking about, the stories like that.
Absolutely.
Bring some people together, have some fun while you're at it.
Yep, and then you have a dog in the fight at that point, which is really cool. So,
all right, so before we get off of this, we did talk about how chalky it seems. I know Gonzaga's the heavy favorite right now. If there's a team that's not a 1 or 2 seed that you had to pick to win the tournament, I want to put you on the spot. Give me one name that's not a 1 or 2 seed that you think has a chance at winning the tournament this year. And that's tough with this tournament with a lot of strong 1 and 2 seeds for sure.
That is, but to your point, I mean, look at 8-9 North Carolina and Wisconsin. Talk about blue bloods there, and teams you feel like could go on a run. Golly, I'm looking at teams like as much as I say Colorado could be upset. I mean, I think they're in there. Villanova, you can never take out, and Purdue, like you said, is pretty good. But
Connor Gillespie.
That's true. I think I'm going to go with Texas Tech which is a 6th seed, and they
got a history of runs recently.
They certainly do, man. That's a team that could do it anytime, and they've got the opportunity to make it happen. It's the best I got there, but they're outscoring opponents by 10 points. That's always a good sign, and putting up 63 points a game. There's some statistics for you, but it's all a shot in the dark. I told you, it's a shot in the dark for me. But I do look at those a lot. I look at their differentials, their point differentials, to see how dominant they've been, and then certainly if they have their top 25 record, that does help because that gives you some experience. But if they've been running the table and they've been dominating a lot, it makes me feel like they have. Of course, then I take a look at their conference, and so you think of a team that might play some decent teams that they've got an opportunity to at least upset a couple of rounds, but potentially go on a run. And it's all making stuff up in my head, but I'm going with Texas Tech there as an option.
All right, you got to do it. You got to have some fun with it too, and with being able to pick brackets online, fill out as many as you want. You got to go for something outside the obvious, just in case it happens. You can show it to your friends and brag about it.
That's true. That's exactly right. Which it never happens for me. But
I'll take Florida State as a team outside those 1 and 2 seeds that I could actually see winning it all. I think they were one of the best teams in the country last year before the shutdown.
It's true.
And even with a little bit of struggles recently, including the tournament, too many turnovers. But that's something that seems fixable, and you could have a team that could possibly be up there with the dominant ones again. And plus I see them in that Eastern Conference, which Michigan was my original pick to win the tournament, but with the uncertainty over Isaiah Livers' return, I think that's a huge blow to that team, so they look a little bit more vulnerable. Alabama and Texas are both very strong teams at the 2 and 3 seeds, but I feel like they're probably the weaker of the 2 and 3 seeds in this tournament. So, why not go with Florida State as one of your outside the chalk picks?
Why not, man? I think it's a great choice. Although I will say, I think UNC Greensboro is going to give them a run. That's one of the matchups I'm looking forward to in the first round.
And they might run into a red-hot 12-seed Georgetown in the next round. Who knows?
That's why it'll be fun to revisit this with you once we know how that first round shakes out.
Hey, we'll be on the air Sunday night.
Can't wait, man.
Check it out, wxnafm.org. Stream us live anytime we're on the air Sunday nights from wherever you are, or just go into the archives there and play the show whenever you want to on your own time. Or if you're watching this, you already know. WalkItOffRadio.com. We got you covered.
Heck yeah. We're everywhere now, man. We're everywhere. And if there's more things you want to see, different things you want to see, we're open to it. We want to meet you where you are. So let us know your favorite way to talk about sports, and we're all open ears.
Hit us up. That's social media. At Walk It Off Radio. And as always, if you got more to say, send us an email. WalkItOffRadio@gmail.com. We make it easy. One thing to remember.
That's it. We're everywhere.
Yeah, even when you're in Arizona, and I'm still here in Nashville, so.
The miracles of technology, man. We have been making it work for almost 2 years now doing this, which is insane. And there's no reason that's going to change. We're just getting better and better at what we're doing and extending our tentacles. So a lot more cool stuff to come.
Oh, extend that reach. We'll learn the internet one day, people.
It's all tubes, man. Tubes and wires.
We'll get there. Buy some Bitcoin.
I love it.
All right, buddy. It's been good talking to you as always.
Same here, man.
Let you go. Have a good St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah,
Have some
and to
fun.
you. We're raising a
Boil
green
some
beer
corned
to you, my
beef.
friend. You got it. I'm going to try to find some good tofurkey corned beef, and I'll report back. All right. Definitely lots of
This is
cabbage,
where
though.
we
You have my
cannot
word.
agree. But you can make a mean vegetable hash, all right?
There you go, my man. I'm in.
Just boil the piss out of it.
I hope everybody listening, everybody out there does have a really good and safe, in multiple ways, St. Patrick's Day. It's a cool holiday and one that we're gonna miss celebrating the way we normally do. But maybe I'll send some pictures to you, Drew, of some Irish soda bread if I so get the inclination, just to try to replicate what you do.
Nice. I like it.
Cool.
Give it your best shot. I'll do the same.
All right.
You know?
It's a deal, my man.
And we'll be there Sunday.
Can't wait.
As always, for Walk It Off on WXNA, live 101.5 FM here in Nashville, and WXNAFM.org, streaming worldwide.
We'll
With
see.
more in-depth sports talk that won't get as sidetracked
Yeah, and
as we do here.
And we've covered more territory now that we've had this other show in there. So we'll see you on the airwaves.
Fun stuff. Be safe out there. Take care of each other.